party leader, Mark Jefferson Golding, former party leader, Dr. Phillips, my former colleagues as officers and members of the cabinet, Comrade Beverly Manley, are going to have to signal you out love. The Premier of Turks and Caicos, compañeros embajadores, comrades and friends. In the pavilion, you have a lot of time to reflect. And I have been using that time. And until this afternoon, it was my intention to keep all those reflections for another occasion. But I think you have paid me such great honor that you are entitled for me to share some of my reflections with you. And your worst nightmare is that I am doing it without a script, so I am not confined to the discipline of time. And I have asked to be allowed to do it seated. So I am very comfortable and not threatened that my legs will give way. It is good to be patient. And it has taken me 90 years to hear from my colleagues what they have to say. And therefore, it is no longer confined to the time when it has to be said, but I am not in a position to hear it. You do me great honor, inestimable honor, by your presence as I celebrate my 90th birthday. And it was deliberately planned that I would not do it before I knew that I would survive to be here on my 90th birthday. And in the 90th birthday, it is no longer confined to a day. Father Jackson will tell you, to everything there's a time and a season. So for me, this is the 90th birthday season. It's difficult to do a response which takes into account the fact that so many others who started on the journey with me are no longer here. But I think I must begin by paying tribute to all of them for their example, for their sacrifice, and to what I was privileged to learn from them very often simply by observation rather than precept. I've thought, among other things, how much of a coincidence it is that the person who propelled me from being a student activist supporting the party to getting involved in political work happens to be the same person who persuaded Norman Manley that he had to make a contribution to the nation, not from the confines of the court, nor even from the Social Welfare Commission which he had created, but by his active entry to lead a political movement. And few know that it is that same person who, when Michael Manley returned from his studies in London, was recruited by him as a journalist for public opinion. And that same gentleman it was who, when I was finishing my honors degree at the UCWI and preparing to go to pursue the study of law, invited me to his home on East Avenue, just before Queens, for a student. A good meal was always welcome, more so topped up with some sherry. And he suggested to me that instead of going off immediately to do law, why should I not consider very seriously helping to rebuild the People's National Party, which was the first party campaigning for independence and universal adult suffrage in 1938 that did not win until 1955. And by 1957, it was routed in the federal elections with some of the best candidates that have ever been presented by any political party. And when I went and discussed it with my fellow students, my grouping, they thought I was insane. And when I summoned enough courage to mention it to my mother, she scoffed at it at first. And then the thing that allowed me to get some traction with her is when I said I was going to be involved with a party led by Norman Manley as part of my mission, instead of being a minister of religion, to minister politically to God's people on earth. And she said, well, if Norman Manley is giving you that opportunity, go ahead. And I mention this because I didn't know it at the time, but it's the best investment I ever made in my political career. Because I did not begin at the top, coming down. I began at the bottom. And eventually, when that was recognized, I was propelled by the people upwards and onwards. And for that experience and exposure, I will always be grateful. I have done everything from raising Thy kingdom come, O God, in a group meeting, to pulling down the microphone. Let me share this story with you. We went coming up to the 1959 elections. I was in the parish of St. Elizabeth. Michael Manley, he was known then as Young Boy. And when Young Boy was coming, I mean, everybody came out to hear Young Boy. I was the organizer. We went to a place, middle quarters, with the shrimps. Die-hard labor. So Michael began, oh, I know you're supporters of Sir Alexander Bustamante, a great trade union leader. And the crowd said, mm-hmm. And he went on to speak about what Norman Manley, what Bustamante was doing in the union movement. And the people said, talk nice. Why the mother PNP man not talk like you? And then he reached a point when he said, but. And every word after the but was followed by rock stones on the roof. Michael at the time was being driven by a man named Vin Foot, who kept the car running. And when the stones kept on coming with increasing intensity, Vin Foot revved up the car. Michael was in the car in a flash. I had to pull down the speakers from the top of the house. Michael reached to Black River and finished speaking to Black River before I could get to Black River. So I have done it all. I could never take you through a litany of all my experiences. And I would say this, and John in a way referred to it in his presentation. I have always encouraged every young person who has an interest in politics, get a sound foundation first. Politics cannot be a livelihood. Politics reflects a passion for serving the people. If you want to serve yourself, find something else to do other than enter the political arena. And I mention this because one of the things on which I reflect is when I hear the story about how much money I have and the house in France. I tell everybody, do me a favor, just find the house for me. You can live in it for 50 weeks of the year, free, and just give me a cut for 2 weeks every year, and I'll be comfortable with that. Some people have seen me on an airplane when Air Jamaica used to fly coming home. And they said, what you doing on the plane? I said, going home. They said, so what happened to the jet that you own? I am in Jamaica 24/7. My daughter-in-law goes to the supermarket and she hears somebody saying, oh, PJ flying for annual conference. PJ didn't fly and PJ never left. And I mention this because one of the things for me, people have spoken about my roots, my family, my background, etc. For me, integrity is what it is all about. You can say many bad things, you can criticize me, you can attack me, but when it comes to integrity, that's all we have as a people to show that we are capable of converting our hard-won struggle for freedom into something that ensures a better way of life for the people from whom we spring and to whom we belong. I have been privileged beyond measure to have been able to serve in the government and the administration over which Michael Manley presided, and in which I was for a substantial portion of time the Deputy Prime Minister and a Vice President of the party. I give thanks that I was part of the government that has been responsible for the greatest social transformation in Jamaica that has ever taken place since the emancipation of slavery. And people, I think there was some sort of oblique questioning about it. My relationship, my work with Michael Manley as my leader is one for which I remain eternally proud. But I must also share with you that after that agonizing defeat in 1980, I went through a period of intense questioning whether I should continue to be engaged in political life. Maxine referred to a conversation. She didn't divulge the contents, nor will I. Suffice it to say that after serious consideration, I came to the view that I was entrusted with the responsibility of contributing at the level of leadership to a movement for the advancement of our people, that I had an obligation to pursue with what Norman Manley describes as fixity of purpose. And so we were involved in the process of rebuilding, and those of you who are old enough to remember, despite the fact that we only won 9 seats in the 1980 election, by 1983, the people were just waiting for an opportunity to return the People's National Party to government. And so we did in 1989. I have endeavored to put much of what we achieved in my book. But some people say rather unkindly, if you want to hide anything from Jamaican people, you put it in a book. Because we are more given to the oral tradition rather than the literary tradition. Let me just try and encapsulate the situation which we faced in 1989. There was a change in the global configuration with the dismantling of the bipolar axis and with competing economic ideologies. With the advent of Thatcher and Reagan, market capitalism and globalization became the only game in town. In fact, that contributed to the dismantling of the Soviet Union as we knew it. And people ask from time to time, and there's learned discourse as to whether Michael Manley and the PNP changed its mission. The answer is resolutely no. But the means and the process by which we could secure social justice, equity in the global order, and the exercise of our sovereign rights to explore our human and natural resources meant we had to do it with very little option other than in accordance with the dictates of the multilateral lending agencies. I never call them the multilateral donor agencies because all they donate is pain. And I say so without reservation. Of all the tributes given, I pay special attention to what Comrade Burke said. He spoke about differences. The truth is, the PNP has always been a party of ideas. Our purpose is clear. Our mission is clear. Those were eloquently etched in the DNA of the party by Norman Manley in his opening presentation at the Ward Theatre in 1938. Those are immutable. They will never change. And at the present time, the world is going through another period of unprecedented turbulence and mutation. Every leader has his or her own different style, his or her own different way of doing things. Some of the things that we did went almost unnoticed. When, for example, the Americans wanted us to sign a treaty saying that they could send their vessels into our territorial waters and pick out who they like, we told them no way. Other countries in the Caribbean had already signed on the dotted line. Jamaica had to initiate the meeting that called all the Caribbean countries together to have a ship rider treaty agreement, an exercise of our own sovereignty. When they kidnapped Aristide and put him on a plane and sent him to Africa and declared on the manifest in Barbados, in Antigua where the plane landed, no passengers, cargo only, you would never, ever believe that this calm, mild-mannered P.J. Patterson used the language which he used in speaking to Colin Powell about it. I hear people writing all about the the abandonment of the search for the new international economic order. What poppycock? The new international economic order essentially is predicated on a change of the relationships in the global economic structure and allowing us to exercise our sovereign rights. We belong to a United Nations that was created when we were colonies. The IMF, the World Bank, the developed countries have 90% of the voting rights. The United States has 16% of the voting rights in the IMF, and the articles provide that 85% majority is necessary for every decision. You know what that means? A veto power. We are about South-South relationships. The Petrocaribe, which Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, Fidel Castro of Cuba, and P.J. Patterson of Jamaica developed, is the greatest act of South-South cooperation that has been seen in the hemisphere. And, you know, I said something about roads the other day, and I see a response from somebody who says they are fixing the roads that I should have fixed 19 years ago. Let them go into any constituency. I fixed those roads 19 years ago, but they don't understand that when roads fix, they have to be maintained. So you can be in power for 9 years and talking about the roads that were in much, much better condition in 2006. I am urging the party, Comrade Phillips, to have another set the record straight, featuring you, the party leader, our Minister of Finance in waiting, to compare what was done by the government between 2007 to 2012 to what you did, what you had to do between 2012 to 2016. We must tell the people the truth. We must set the record straight. Who remember the patty pans in which our people had to travel? And the decision when it was completed, Peter, in one of your, what shall I call it, easier ministries. Yeah. But, you know, it allows me to say this. It allows me to say this. I led a team. And when you pick a team, you must allow the members of the team to do their job. and they must get praise when praise is due, and they have to get some cover and protection when mistakes will be made. But there is a big difference between mistakes of judgment and mistakes of integrity. In fact, there is no such thing as mistakes of integrity. It is corruption. I don't think I should abuse this opportunity of saying everything that needs to be said, but simply to say, as we know, the time is drawing nigh. We know not when the bridegroom cometh, so we must have oil in our lamps to keep it burning. And, comrade leader, people like me, people like Comrade Phillips, people like Comrade Maxine Henry Wilson, people like Comrade Junior, Comrade Paul, well, I include him because he was part of my team. Even, when I said even, I mean he was not at the ministerial level, but as he said, in terms of campaign administration, Comrade Vin Lawrence, we are here, we are ready. And let me end by saying this. It's my birthday, and I'm not going to ask for it as my birthday present, because I have already asked for it as the present for the centenary of the birth of Michael Manley. And I'm sticking to that. When you win, then I can get my birthday present in terms of what the PNP has to do in the new world. And I put it extremely simple. I think I am a man of faith. I am also a person who believes in destiny. And destiny demands that the People's National Party occupy the reins of government at a time of global transition, because we want to have hands on the wheel that recognize we put our nations first, but nations do not exist separately and alone. We are part of a bigger world consisting of other nations. I don't think I could end without saying Among my privileges is working not only with great leaders of the People's National Party, but great leaders of the world. And I have to say it at this time because they are under such intense pressure. History has already absolved several times over Fidel Castro. And we have to take a position, we have to look long. Any decision you're taking in political life, don't just look at the immediate situation. Look at its application in the future. And equally, as I said, I think, in our last Get the Record Straight presentation, when you're in government, anything you're proposing, think of how the opposition would react to it. And if you wouldn't accept it in opposition, don't expect others to do it. And one of the things that worries me is that the government is operating as though the time will never come when they will be in opposition. And to make it happen requires work. And that work requires unity. Unity of purpose, unity of action, unity of using all the talents and skills that are available to those in the progressive movement that want to create a Jamaica of love, of peace, of inclusive prosperity, and make Jamaica a symbol that people of different hues and colors, of differing religious persuasions, differences in gender notwithstanding, differences of age, can dwell together as one people and make Jamaica a land as a model for the whole human race. Thank you for saying, we say PJ tonight. I say the People's National Party, onward and forward, let us go together. Thank you.